Well, hello, I am Diego Lizarazo, and after a few days of not having any stream, I wanted to have a small one just to get back on business. And this is not exactly related to what we were doing with our game of tower defense, but quite likely I'm going to integrate it in a future video, hopefully next week. In the meantime, here you can, well, have my contact, my Twitter account, my link to my blog, and here on the side you're going to be able to see links to the game templates that you can use from Construct 2, and also my YouTube channel where I'm uploading most of my videos. So let's get to it. So this is a full example that I experiment, most likely, that I did at some point. And it had to do a little bit more with patrolling, like enemies that are patrolling an area. What I'm going to try to do is to explain what I did. I did this several weeks ago, so there's a good chance that I may forget a few things, but I should remember the basics and explain what I'm doing. I also found another example. This one I created. That's something that I wanted to do, but I found an example that I thought that it was better and quite likely more appropriate for the tower defense that we're doing. So I'm going to show you how this one works. And you see here that we have 3 enemies, and then we have our player that is this little green square and is going to be able to move around. The thing is that the enemies do have an angle where they are able to see, and you can tell that when my enemy that has a line of sight is able to see me is stopping, and not just that, it changes the color. And the others just continue going around in these areas that are marked by these circles, and each one of them shows the area of basically where these enemies are going to be able to move, or patrol. So let's see how we can do this. I'm going to go here for a new project. I'm going to have it empty. And the first thing that I'm going to do is just to add my player. In this case, I thought that it was, let's say, a green square that has a little bit of a, well, I guess I could do it with this, a little bit of a dark cycle. Okay, and I'm going to make him smaller. To be able to move him around, to move the square, I'm going to add the A direction behavior that we have it here, and that's it. And just to make certain that I am going to be able to run it, have it here, and so far it's just moving around, so nothing impressive. And well, that's not really the main purpose of this tutorial. Now what I'm going to do is to add the enemy, and I'm just going to do like a red square here, and just to make certain that we also know where it's looking at, I'm going to make this little mark here, and then we're going to be able to know which direction it's able to look at. I guess something like this works better. Okay, that's it. Now the thing is that and well, you're going to be able to see that in my original example. You see that you have these enemies here, but at the same time you have this other image that I overload, like put on top of it, that it has just I think it does have a pin behavior. So there you go. So the entire point here is that at some point I was just using a normal image, and it was not working so well in the sense of how it looked, because these ones are going to completely turn around. So I kind of just put this one on top of it and try to make it look a little bit better, but that's something that we can work at some other point. Really the basic for my enemies that are here, it's that they have this pathfinding behavior and the line of sight. The pathfinding behavior is just going to find like new positions, new areas where they are going to go, and the line of sight is to be able to detect the enemy, that we have here, the player in this case. So okay, so I'm going to rename this one as player. I think in the other side I'm also going to do the same thing. This one is going to be my enemy, and this one is the player here. Okay, player, let's spell it correctly. Okay, now in the project that I'm creating, I'm going to add the two behaviors that are pathfinding and then line of sight. That is going to be here. Okay, just to make it look work the same, I'm going to check if that goes hand in hand with what we had, and especially with the range and the cone of view. So we have it here, a line of sight, obstacles, no, not so that far much, it's 100, and cone of view, if you leave it as 360, it's going to be able to look all around, and that's not really what we want, so I just limited it to 120, so it would be something like around this area. Okay, and that's it. Just to make it look normal, I'm just going to say this one normal, and then this I'm going to make another one that is going to be called duplicate, and is going to detect it. And detected, I'm going to change the color to, I don't know, some sort of gray, or yeah, this one, something like that. So we're going to be able to know. Well, actually I should have done the other way, but well, it doesn't matter. So that's it. Now the entire point is that I am going to have an area where I want my enemy to be able to patrol. In the example that I was showing here, each one of these enemies has a circle that is showing me where they're going to patrol. That's just for well, view. So let's see what I had in the events. So the first thing that I was doing with the start of layout was really to pin these images, the secret image that I had on top. That's not something really that I really need, but this one I may need. And oh well, so what are the variables? Oh, I had a lot of variables here. So there are initial x, initial y, dest x, dest y. So let's add some of those. Initial x, initial y, and at the moment what I'm going to add here, system start, on a start of layout. Let's move a little bit, something like this, and I think I can even copy this too. Enemy, let's call enemy 1. Okay, well, let's call enemy 1. So I can copy between the two projects, and there you go. So basically the only thing that I'm doing here is just to say that the instance variables that belong to enemy 1 that are called initial x and initial y are at the very beginning just the same as where I put my enemy. So this position that it has originally is going to be the same. And just to make it more interesting, I'm going to make a couple more enemies from the get-go. There you go. Now this function that I have here I'm going to add later, but I do know that I need to add the plugin that is for a function that I don't see it. So I'm just going to look for it. Function, there you go. So I can add functions now. New goal. Okay, so basically what new goal is going to be doing is just to find for each one of the enemies a new position that it has to go to. So what I'm doing right now is, like, let's say that I pick this enemy. It's going to pick a destination, a goal that is going to be in this circle that we have here. So let's suppose that it decides to go here, and then and it's going to pick this randomly, and then it's going to make the enemy move in that direction. When it reaches that destination, it's going to pick another random position that is also going to be in this circle of patrolling, and then it's going to go to that one. So basically it's just going to be doing something like this. Okay? The cool thing is that each one of the enemies has a different initial position That means that they are covering different areas, and every single time they should have a different goal. So let's see if we can copy that function over here. So I'm going to add function, and I'm going to say function, and I'm even just going to leave it like that, but I'm going to copy this because, well, I'm that lazy. Oh well, then it's called new goal. There you go. Now the thing is that I need a couple more of variables that we had here. So that's destination X, destination Y. So let's add them. Dest X and dest Y. And let's see, I am going to add also the found enemy, even though I don't know if I'm going to use it for this video. But well, have it here, and this is going to be a boolean, and it's going to start at false. So there you go. That's perfect. So you can tell that I was commenting a lot of things that I was trying to figure out, but well, and also I had destination angle. Oh, okay, I kind of like missed that one. So destination angle. There you go. So that's dest angle. And I'm going to move it here so I can put it. So I'm going to kind of like copy one by one, and it should work, hopefully. So of course the destination angle, it's going to be a random number, and if you remember from your geometry classes, yeah, it should go between 0 and 360. Really I'm not using 0 because 0 it's the same as 360, so I'm using 1. I could have done it like from 0 to 359, it doesn't really matter. Then I am going to try to find out a new random destination that is going to be determined by these two variables that are like dest X and dest Y. So let's see if I can patrol radius. Okay, like, so this is a variable that I'm using here, and I was kind of like afraid to use. Let's say this angle. Yeah, I think I should be able to copy just this. So let's copy. I'm going to move it here. So this radius, okay, I don't want it there. There, global. So it's going to determine like how big is going to be the circle that is going to be used in the patrol. So in this case, well, I was saying 225. I don't know why 225. Oh well, because it's the half of this, of the size of this, so the half of 450. There you go. So that's perfect. If you want to just make a bigger area, so let's say that you just wanted to patrol the entire area, you just like change that radius that you have here in the global variable. So that's really good. And now I should be able to copy this thing. And then we should try to understand what this is. So for every enemy, I'm going to say that it has a new destination area that is going to be a circle that is determined by this. That is the initial position, the initial location in X. And what I'm doing here basically is just going to be well, calculating that position in the circle. So I'm using cos for, well, cosinus, that's in English, well, I don't know, coseno for the X position, and sinus for the Y position. So with these two, I should have in the dest X and dest Y, I should have a new position that I want to go to. And now one thing that I may be missing is that my enemy should also have a timer, and I'll explain why a timer in a second. So timer, there you go. So now I should be able to copy this, that is move to goal. So if you saw the behavior that I had here, there is a small pause after the enemy is able to reach one of the positions, one of the goals, and that is determined by that small timer that I'm adding over here. That is 1 second. So basically it's going to move to a new goal, it's going to reach it, and while it's there it's going to wait for a second, and then it's going to say like, okay, I need to find another one. Okay, so that's how it goes. Now in terms of the code, what I should have here is I should find function on, oh, there you go. Wow, I was testing a lot of things apparently. So okay, this is what I need, and I think I can copy it almost right away, and then I can explain it. So what is happening here is that when this timer reaches its end, that is 1 second, is going to trigger this event. Of course, I'm adding here another condition that I was using, I mentioned it before, that is if it found an enemy. So I'm saying if you still haven't found an enemy, try to move to the next position. If you found the enemy, it's going to be stuck there. Right now, I don't care, so I'm just going to say the enemy, use the pathfinding behavior that we already did, and that position is going to be destination X, destination Y. So right now the only part that I'm missing here is the call at the start for the new goal. Okay, that being said, let's see how this works. So, and of course it's not working. Because I'm missing something important that we have seen, especially on the tower defense game. Right now I'm saying like find a path, but I'm not saying follow that path. So I should have another condition that is over here that says when the enemy finds a path to the destination that we determined here, well, actually here, and we just set it here, then move along that path. Okay, so it should work one time at least, and that's it. And they don't do anything else. Why? Simply because now I'm missing the part of what to do when I find a new when I'm able to reach the goal. So I'm going to copy this. And this one is basically saying when I arrive to the pathfinding goal that I have, when I when I arrive to my destination, then I call the function that is new goal. That is going to be this one. So let's go. So now they're just going to keep looking for destinations, and from time to time they're going to try to move, and depending on, well, the angle that they have, they should work. So now they are patrolling. So what's missing right now? Basically the entire thing of finding, or well, detecting the enemy. So this one, enemy secure image, no, that's it. So how did I do it? Well, that's a good question, I don't remember. So it seems, okay, well, so this part is doing every tick. This one is just going to be checking. Yeah, it's kind of like setting the animation, but we're not going to be doing that on our game. So I'm just going to copy this, that is on every tick. I'm going to simplify it. On every tick, I am going to check for each one of, well, then I'm going to create a sub event here, you see. So in every tick I'm going to do whatever it is here, and I think that one on its own should have another sub event, if I'm not mistaken. That is going to be this one, yeah. So on every tick of the game, I'm going to look, I'm going to check on each one of the enemies, and I'm going to see if the enemy is able to see the player. One important thing that I didn't use here is that the line of sight can be blocked. So in my example, I'm not using anything, but let's suppose that I create another sprite. It's going to be dark so we can see it there, and then I give this one a behavior that is solid, and that's it. I'm going to make this kind of like a wall, and actually I'm going to make it, I don't know, something like this. What do I know? So, well, I think since I'm using a pathfinding behavior, perhaps sometimes the enemies are going to be affected by this, and they're not going to be able to go through to certain destinations. But the important part that I wanted to show is that if I'm behind a wall, well, if I'm not behind a wall, I should be able to see, well, the enemies should be able to see me. But if I'm behind a wall, well, this enemy hopefully starts looking in this direction. Okay, well, this one. Look at this. So at that point, they should be able to see me, but they don't, because this solid is blocking. Well, that was just to kind of like exemplify that. So what am I doing at this point? So the first thing, it should tell the enemy, I should say like, hey, I found the enemy. So that means that this event that we were using here is not going to be triggered. So while he's able to see the enemy, it's not going to try to find another destination. The other thing is, well, I had this enemy stop. I should stop the enemy. And this one, if you see it here, is just because I'm stopping the very moment that I'm able to find that the enemy is able to see the player, I stop the behavior of pathfinder behavior. And the other thing that I was doing here was just to change the effect to sepia. What I'm going to do here is that since I already had well, I think I'm going to kind of like do it the other way around. I'm going to change the default, and I'm going to change the normal, and the detected is the one that is going to be red, just to show that it was able to to detect the player. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say the animation is going to change to detected. What's that the name that I use? Yeah. So let's see if this works. And there you go. So at that point, this enemy is able to see the player, and is changing the color, is changing the animation, and it's not moving. It's not trying to find a new goal. If I move away, I haven't said anything on the terms of you're not able to see it, so quite likely it's stuck there. So now this one is also stuck there. So I'm basically freezing the enemies as soon as they are able to see the player. So let's see now. Okay, so that's it. Now, if you see, one of the other things is because as soon as I find the enemy, I'm saying that the enemy found is true. I'm not doing anything to change that, so it's never going to be able to go to a new, well, never going to be able to find path. So even if I assign a new goal, it's probably not going to do a thing. So there you go. So what I'm going to do is to create another sub event here, and I'm going to just copy this. That says like when I am not able to see. This one I was asking when I'm able to see the enemy, the player. This one is when I am not. So the first thing quite likely is going to be so let's see, how did I do it? Is found enemy. Okay, so this one was changing the effect. I was changing the effect of this one. I'm not going to do that. This is one basically that I think I could do here. Well, I'm going to copy just because in the middle of the video is a bad idea to try to find out if it's true or not. So move the goal. Timer, move to goal, and move to goal. Did I have okay, then what I'm doing here is setting again another time, well, basically timer, and just saying like now continue moving to the goal that you had, and the enemy found enemies fall, so I should be able to set it correctly. So now they shouldn't get stuck. Let's see. You see it's in red, and that's it. Oh, and the other thing that I should change then is the animation. That should be back to something like this, and instead of detected, I think it was called normal. Yeah. So let's see. I don't think it's working completely correctly because it should get stuck. That's fine. So it's working, and now I get away. It's not able to see me, and it continues its merry life. But the other ones that are able to see me are stuck. So they are stuck whenever they are able to see me. And well, it's quite visible now. I don't know if that angle for like the line of sight is great, and perhaps one of the things that you should consider is like what is the range. You see, like I get in and out of range, and well, it's a circle around that central point, but it seems to be working. So this is kind of like in just 11 events the basics for a patrolling enemy around well, a circular area. If you don't want a circular area, quite likely what you would have to do here is to change the destination X and destination Y, and instead of like calculating it like this, you should do it perhaps I don't know, square area around the initial X and the initial Y, or it could be any shape that you want. Obviously circular kind of like makes sense, and it's easy to calculate at any given moment, but well, it's really up to you. And that's pretty much it. The other things that I did in my example was just to add this sticker image, this animation on top of the on top of the enemies that I'm making to patrol, and just to kind of like make it look a little bit better. I really don't have any idea who made this art, so I'm just using them to explain it here and to make it look cool. I think they come from an old Nintendo game, right? Yeah, I think some of you may be able to recognize it, so that would be great. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't claim ownership of this art. I'm just using it to be able to explain how to use it. You could try to do the same thing using well, your own art or something that you can find on the internet that has well, that is giving you permission to use, and you can pin it on top of the enemy, and you are going to be able to change the animation and well, do whatever you want. Other things that right now I'm not doing even in this example is what to do when I'm able to detect the enemy. I'm stopping the enemy, but at this point I should be able to attack the player, or I should be able to shoot. It could be different kinds of powers that could be activated, but well, I'm not doing it since it was just an example. So quite likely what I'm going to do is to take something like this, some pieces of code, try to make it a little better, and then try to add it to my tower defense game. So now I'm not going to just have towers, but I'm also going to have like this kind of enemies that appear in games like Kingdom Rush or something like that. And that's pretty much it. So we go back here, and well, thanks for paying attention. I hope that you like this video. Perhaps next time I'm going to show you how to add this to the game that I've already been creating, the tower defense, and hopefully, well, it's something that you are interested to add to your own games too. If not, well, there are many other games that quite likely could add something like this. And that's it. Thank you.